German philosopher Hegel once said, "A truth is found neither in the thesis nor antithesis, but in the emergent synthesis, which reconciles the two." Good evening, Chief Guest, the President and the Council members of CPM Sri Lanka, the Director and the staff of CPM, panel of judges, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you have gathered here not to juggle with philosophical rhetorics or the puzzles or conundrums. Instead, to cherish your collective efforts, appreciative efforts of Best Management Practices Company Awards 2023. So, as a chairman of the panel of judges, let me first congratulate and extend best wishes for your awards, irrespective of the category name. At the same time, on behalf of my panel, I want to extend a big thank to our collective wonderful effort for their rigorous, robust process of judging in this case. So let me put it to this, the whole discussion into 3 areas. So the number one is the CPM intervention in this promoting best management practices in Sri Lanka. So as President Professor Vatawalla very clearly highlighted that CPM as a national body, as an integrative body where all the fields can work together. So we have an implicit task of nurturing and looking after management. So the spotlight is the management discipline. So in that sense, so what we want to look at the management, even though it's not theoretical learning now, if you look at management per se, it is an integrative, or we can say in simple terms, a blending or mixing task, the functionalities of planning, leading, controlling, etc., etc. But if you identify the management in such a way, if someone is not mixing well, instead messing it up, so what could be the scenario? So that it shows the figuring it out of mixing well, blending well, integrating well. So that is where the management excellence stands. So in that light, when it comes to companies, we all know, as President clearly highlighted, and MC's remarks, we know that what was the year 2022. So in that context, what was the response of the companies? So they have looked at their practices. They have looked at what they are doing. When they are looking at what they are doing, that gives them a focus. That gives them a selection or making choices among the distortions. So with that, I'll come to my second area. What is this Best Management Practices Company Awards is all about, and what is in it? It's a competition. So CPM has invited companies to produce or submit their synopsis. It's 1,500 to 2,000 words. The judging criteria, very transparent. Both judges as well as the companies are very clear about the process, the situation, the emerged scenario, the choice of the best management practice, what is your execution. So the way you have produced results, we call outputs and outcomes. And of course, sustainability aspects. The marks have been given, and we have invited you to come and present. Within that 10 minutes presentation, what you have done, what you have written, what you have done in the company. So in some cases, we have observed that what you have written versus what you have presented, there are some gaps. But we saw some delicate balance, the intricate balance between those aspects as well. We have asked questions, not out of, but within the context, within the submission of what you are doing. So well, if you look at from a judging point of view, so we have captured, grasped rather collectively. So I'm conceptualizing it under 4 areas. May I say that the one dimension is your definition well about your chosen best practice, because we have invited you to, among many best practices, select one which you like to showcase. And at the same time, the definition and the execution. So ladies and gentlemen, if you look at number 1 category, we saw that define well, application is well. That is where we see probably the best of the best. Fascinating integration between the outside environment of your choice of the strategy, choice of the relevant pillar, one pillar or pillars, and clear execution. And as judges, we love to see. We enjoy it. That is what country needs. That's what the respective industry needs. Absolutely, that is fantastic. The category 2 we have witnessed where define well but not application in track. So define well means they have an overarching idea about the concepts, because anyway there are concepts in management. So you have identified the management, the definition of the practice, but the activities are not in line. There are series of activities, series of events, and which we are struggling, in fact collectively struggling to understand. They have a concept, but are they executing well? I'm sure you know in the business arena. The number 3 category, ladies and gentlemen, where no definition, but applications are somewhat intact. What does that mean? Probably the gut feeling which we have discussed during the day, probably the senior management's view, and they have a fair idea. We know that what works, this is what we have been doing. So let's try to do something. From a customer's point of view, they are trying to do something. Absolutely, fantastic. But the definition, articulation, the clarity is missing. And the 4th category is not productive or effective, where the definition is poor, the applications are also poor. So in that sense, marking point of view, the job is easy. By looking at the rubric, it's a matter of giving some lower marks. But from an industry point of view, that's not the way forward. We all learn, the audience here, whatever you are doing, we need to define, we need to identify what we are doing, why we are doing. So under my 2nd category, as far as the judging is concerned, as President said, there are 40+ companies applied, and in terms of the process where the synopsis marks and the presentation marks collected, collated, finally that judging process results the respective categories. Whatever the term it may coin, at the end of the day, what matters is all about all are winning. So we need not the competition, co-opetition. Together, everyone rises. But for that, the shifting to that thinking is not easy. But as a professional body, CPM Sri Lanka has invited industries to come forward and share your story. So that is what we learn from each other. Well, in this process, whether you are a winner or loser, let me go to my last point, that is the key takeaways. As a professional body, we have an implicit responsibility of looking after, serving to our mandate, that is, looking after the management profession, management development, reaching the excellence. For that, whatever the format we have, we would like to keep on doing that. So this was really encouraging for us to take it further nitty-gritties, to look at more sharply. Probably the next edition of the best management practices would be going to further details of identifying, figuring it out of that clarity and the application. So companies are invited to move away from their rhetoric articulation to a clear execution of what you want to do. So that is where the execution what matters. I think Dr. Bamnu Singh highlighted that he asked from the panelists also during that time, not what we are supposed to do, tell how we are going to do that. That is one of the aspects. At the same time, friends, the flip side, there are many other companies who couldn't submit their synopsis on time. Or rather, they were looking, they were just exploring. From a professional body, I want to tell you that some of the observations, if I tell anonymously, a corporate communication head doesn't have time to write their synopsis. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the corporate communication head. So, wonder whether they have the definition well or application well or neither they are. But those are some of the facets. So some of the companies who spoke to me after the final session of the day, we should also come forward. I think now this is an invitation for us to go and check, recheck what we are doing, why we are doing. So this is an invitation. So with that, even though it's a philosophical conundrum, going back to German philosopher Hegel's statement, the truth is found neither in the thesis, no antithesis, but in the emergent synthesis, which reconciles to. What does that mean? Here, ladies and gentlemen, irrespective of the context, the transition, the IMF, and all other psyche coming into the picture, here we don't have time to just to have a thesis and antithesis. We need to find out our emergent synthesis. You need to get your business strategies right. You need to get your processes right. You need to get your HR, people, functional areas right. And whether you have a single line thinking or you have a pillar-based thinking, here this competition is not just sending a report and get your award. We are not undermining any other awards. It's all about looking at, hey, come and present, come and do something. Show your emergent synthesis. That is the need of the hour. So we are working towards that. So here, let's celebrate together. Thank you very much.